course, using first-party data has become a very important initiative for large brands, and especially those that have direct-to-consumer relationships, right? And this is really in response to a move away from having to rely on cookies, and also a desire to have more direct and increased communications that are more relevant for consumers. What happens is that audience segmentation is starting to shift from this reliance on third-party data to using first-party data to develop both customer and prospect segments that can be used to build more direct relationships between brands and consumers, right? And essentially, the first party data is in some ways more accountable in that it more directly ties the marketing investments to measurement, and then you can track changes in consumer behavior and also the related impact on business performance or KPIs.
I wanted to ask about the question of the power, the influence, the opportunities of big retailers and e-commerce companies. Obviously, we all know about Amazon, but what about first-party data and the muscle or the opportunity for retailers?
Well, what I would say is that in general, large marketers, and not just major retailers, but also large financial services companies or even quick service restaurants, have begun to deploy consumer apps uh, that are aimed to service their customers, but also help to provide more timely communications. And these same apps are being used uh, to capture relevant first party data, whether that's location data or to understand visits, or it could be also how much time is spent on site. So many of the things that were first being done on an online basis are now transferring to the physical world, and the apps and the data that comes from those apps is tying the digital and the physical world. That also, I would say um, that large retailers such as Target and Walmart and Kroger have begun to use their data to enable new types of shopper data programs that make their marketing efforts of some of their supply chain partners, namely the consumer packaged goods companies, more precise and more measurable. They are able to generate insights using that data to support data-driven planning, better informed campaign targeting, and even things like closed loop attribution that lets them then measure the campaign performance. And that's applicable not just to digital, but also to traditional linear TV as well as addressable TV, and of course their own marketing channels, whether those are digital or physical.
Claudio, there's a lot going on, obviously, around the deprecation of third-party cookie. Mobile identifiers will be changing in the new year. Give us some thoughts about what's next for marketers. What do they need to do to shift in this sort of new reality?
Well, it's clear that the phasing out of cookies and the opt-in requirements for IDFAs is going to make it much more challenging for marketers to rely on third-party data for targeting and measurement. And so, for example, um, a game maker that today relies on a list of advertiser IDs or IDFAs, um, to understand sort of how in-app purchases happen, and then matches those IDFAs to third-party data to identify who are their lookalike customers or lookalike prospects. Though that type of relationship now and that reliance on IDFAs clearly makes for a more challenging environment. And so I think what's likely to happen is that it brings a lot more power to that first-party data. So smaller advertisers, SMBs, are more likely to be at the mercy of large digital companies like Google and Facebook. But larger marketers are going to have a choice, right? They're going to be either uh, face increased reliance on those large digital platforms, or they can opt to develop their own first party driven initiatives, and then be able to work with a broader set of partners, which could include other major publishers who may also have their own first party data, or large retailers that have first party data, and then combine their efforts to really be able to work across a variety of traditional and digital marketing channels. That's the way that I think things are likely to evolve. And so whether companies have to decide whether they're going to rely increasingly on a few large digital companies that have first party data, or whether they work across partners in terms of publishers and retailers and CPG marketers that can work across and in partnership to leverage their respective data sets, their respective first party data sets, to enable data driven campaigns that are more measurable, more accountable, and in doing so, increase the value of the media.
And finally, Claudio, looking at 2021, the year ahead, what's sort of exciting to you in terms of data and television? We've been speaking about this for so many years. A lot is happening. What's exciting to you, and what do you look forward to, and what do you hope to innovate at Comcast Advertising?
So I would say that a lot of the attention has been on connected TVs through 2020, and there's a lot of demand and interest there, and that has to do because connected TVs essentially is a more familiar medium to digital marketers, right? And that it enables the ability to target specific audiences. It can be bought on a programmatic basis, and that helps increase the level of automation in the execution process. And so I would also add that traditional marketers also like that connected TVs is more akin to a normal TV viewing experience. It's typically on a TV, right? And so because of that, connected TV has benefited from users that are um, interesting to marketers in the sense that you're not on a big screen, but at the same time, there are people that are getting increasingly more challenging to reach via traditional TV, right? Because they're either cord cutters or cord shavers, and as such, you have TV buyers that are willing to pay a premium to reach those folks that are becoming harder to reach via traditional TV. Where I think we're going in 2021 and beyond is really the ability to start to understand on a cross-platform basis who's been reached on traditional television and connected TVs. Because at the end of the day, if I'm paying incremental CPMs or higher CPMs on connected TVs, in part because that's where I can reach people that are not watching as much traditional TV, and in part because there's just a lot more demand than supply, um, it behooves me as a marketer to understand whether I'm getting new eyeballs, or am I just getting more impressions on the people that I'm reaching already in my traditional TV buys. And so I think where we're going is essentially using data to better understand across linear traditional TV and both addressable and connected TVs, who am I reaching, and whether that reach is incremental or whether I'm just building more frequency. There are a number of players in the space, including Comcast Advertising, that are working hard to bring solutions to market in this area. And so I think that that's kind of where there's going to be a lot of attention. And it's in part because the high demand that the connected TV space is facing, and the need for marketers to understand how they resolve um, the need to reach uh, consumers that are relying less on traditional television, but at the same time, make sure that when those viewers are exposed on traditional TV, you're not paying extra to reach them again on their connected TV devices.